he used to run in mid lane. So in that sense, he could still put that they could still put that Titan on the middle and rotate around lanes. I'm just surprised by this TA pickup. I guess it's just another addition as a burst. It's a burst hero against a Wisp. It's a burst hero against a Tiny. Tiny has generally very low armor, so in that sense, you can given that you're dire, you have Roche potential, but it looks to me like Queen of Pain is burst to me. Lion is burst to me. TA is physical burst to me. They all aim towards, you know, like just shutting down that IO. All three can just jump IO and kill him very quick.
Get the numbers advantage. Also good against the Axe. The spill from those side blades. TA can clear up Broodmother Spiderlings, and you know they have multiple facets to them. Right now, NiP, are they looking for a dazzle here? Is this Axe actually going to be in a core role? Because something that came to mind potentially is Axe playing greedy, sort of a 4-role jungler. It does leave your lanes basically as solo lanes across the board outside of that Tiny Wisp together. I just don't know where NiP really want to try and focus their draft towards, while VG seem pretty strong.
I think looking at the lanes, to me, I would say it's going to be an Axe safe lane as a core, have Tiny Wisp middle, and then have a Brood off lane. That would be the easiest to execute. You can still, switch around with having an Axe off lane and having a Brood on the short lane. Could work. At the same time, unrealistic, I think. It's kind of unrealistic. As well as that, if you play Broodmother, and which is usually the offlaner, right, is one person that plays that hero, and it has to be executed well. It's one of those heroes you need to practice. You have to get into it. It's really, yeah, it's really not that easy. Just because you do 1-2 mistakes and your game is just it's kind of like done. You just sit there, you're a creep. You just try to get experience, and I'm not entirely sure if it can be anyone else in Enchantress. That's why I think it will be rather the offlaner playing the hero.
Hey, Enchantress for VG, and Ice picking up the Tidehunter means that heads off to the off lane, while how Queen of Pain? So safe lane co-op, or do you... we'll see where they go. You can't really guarantee what these lanes are going to be, but the final pick from NiP was the Scarth Mage.
Look at the lineup of Vici. I assume it's going to be a Queen of Pain off lane, a TA middle, a Tidehunter short lane, because he just does well against melee matchups, a Tidehunter short lane, and then having Ench plus Lion rotate with a smoke towards the bottom lane. Obviously, I can be completely wrong, but at the same time, I wouldn't be too surprised if that would happen, just because Tidehunter in all matchups that he gets top, he's going to have a good time. He should have a good time against all these matchups.
Yeah, it looks like that's the way he's building. 2 sets of tangos, a salve and a mango, so he's not gone for boots or anything like that, so it does look like he'll be heading to definitely wherever the Broodmother is. And you've mentioned they can swap things up, they can rotate around both teams, but they'll be looking for the more favourable matchup for themselves. But look at Jonas, the Broodmother up at top. Poor man shield, 1 observer, 1 sentry, a couple of tangos, while actually down here, Wisp and Tiny already clearing through some trees. Era, Tiny, Hansken on the Wisp, while Limp is your safe lane Axe. Sealkid is the Scarf behind him. And who's this heading down to bot? FY Lion with Enchantress, actually Super on the TA. How on the co-op, and where is the Enchantress? Fenrir, prancing through the jungle on that little girl.
So it looks like the lanes are what I expected them to be in start, but other than that, looking at the risky factors here, to me, Tiny Wisp against the TA middle. How much support does the TA get in this matchup? Because I feel like if Tiny Wisp play very well, it could just snowball for Tiny Wisp. That it gets very dangerous, right? And bottom lane, we already see a...
Oh man, they're just running into each other. Super and Hao here, the 2 ranged heroes now get caught by the call and avalanche. Super dropping low and will be your first blood, as Limp takes that with the Axe. Era now on the aggressive. Sealkid launching out these arcane bolts, but they won't be able to chase down FY. A few more right clicks out as IO this time. Hansken, NiP, they win the first engagement and they get themselves a bounty rune. So bottle straight off the bat for that Wisp.
Very important. Very important opening here indeed by NiP, and I think it just... hopefully it can snowball just the other direction. I was trying to mention the lane in middle is really important for Tiny Wisp on how it goes. It can, I think a TA can do fine, and I believe that...
I think Super's, yeah, I was going to say, I think Super is disconnected. He's standing there without refraction, without spilling any side blades or anything like that, being level 1, so...
I actually think they have a potential threat of a kill here. I believe NiP is going to back off from this. They already dealt 1/3 of HP onto the TA.
Then Avalanche, she's still got refraction, but that gets burnt pretty much instantly by the Avalanche.
3 charges. I actually think that stun has even more incidence of damage, so it should go through plus deal a bit of damage. But yeah, looking at that matchup, it's you pick a TA into Tiny Wisp if you're comfortable running that matchup in the first place. It's a matchup that I think Tiny Wisp should do really well on, and TA should have a hard time if he does not get any assistance whatsoever. You have Fenrir as an Eng, so I believe that's the help, right, that he will get in the mid lane, so he's probably going to search for creeps that he can send mid lane. Looking at the creep camps right now, we have one Alpha Wolf camp, another Alpha Wolf camp, and a Centaur camp, which are not the greatest to get, for sure. They can't really help our mid lane at all. The best obviously would be the Lightning Creep. Lightning Creep or Mana Burn is pretty good, I think, to pick up. Dark Troll, more or less. Like, you know, Dark Troll can harass and can deny, but it doesn't really deal enough damage. Or, you know, with the Lightning, it pretty much zones an entire combo out of the lane. Like,
yeah.
You can burst twice the max HP, or like deal twice the max HP of a combo just with that creep that you can get from the forest. Other than that, one thing to mention is actually that is very interesting to me is the golem change, right? The golem's active spell now is a 125 damage stun that stuns for 0.6 seconds, and it splits into 2 smaller golems, right? And both of the smaller golems can stun again for 125 damage. The funny part is I tried to test this because it was very interesting to me to read it in the patch notes, is the fact that you run in with a golem that is very low, right? So you run in, you stun with a golem, then you let them split because the tower is going to hit the golem, right? You let them split. Maybe if you're really good, you can split on the first hit while the stun flies, right? That would be like you get the stun off and then they split, right? Then they split, and so you can stun twice again. The cooldown in between where the 2 golems spawn is a bit high, so you kind of need a follow-up disable something. But it's usually given by a mid lane. It's not that bad, right? So you get 2 follow-up stuns that again 125 damage. So you get an effective 375 damage level 1, which is massive.
Now, a question for you with the golems. With an enchantress, obviously the creeps time out after a period of time. If a golem times out, does it spawn the 2, or is that only on death itself?
I can't tell you that. I have not tried that, but I believe it's only on death itself, because it's a timing out, right? And you should not get enchant onto 2 units that are not yours after that time, right? Like, you would kind of renew the enchant, which should not happen in theory.
It'd be interesting to see. Well, Super so far, last hit wise, 2 for 0, not doing too shabby. Middle lane. Era is getting his gold in there. How 1 versus 1 so far really against Limp on this lane, while the 2 supports, they're having their own little battle in the jungle. Seal Kid against FY, Lion against Skywrath. Just throwing projectiles, harassing each other, and this is so often what we see from like a dual lane off lane against a safe lane dual lane or a safe lane tri lane with a jungler, is that the 2 supports basically go 1v1, go and contest runes against each other, while How has a great time against Limp. The Queen of Pain against the Axe is a great matchup for him, and actually in comes an Enchantress creep to help Super out, but it's only a Satyr, so not too much actually going to be done there. And looking at top lane, Ice, he's pushing aggressively up on this lane. Jonas doesn't have anything to do up here, really.
It's going to be very interesting on how much impact Ice is going to get. Like last game, he has a pretty good lane for an offlaner, right? Like, he is again in a scenario that I think Broodmother loses at least.
FY denies himself to Roshan as Limp was walking in there looking for the kill. A great little scuffle there with Seal Kid, managing to get concussive shot out as top lane. Ice, Jonas, the TP in, Limp looking for the chase, not going to get the call, and Ice with those brown boots will manage to get himself away, while the loop in from Seal Kid. Concussive shot could slow down Super enough here with the avalanche, and Toss. Era still holding on to it, waiting until the last second where they will finish off that. No, the TP. Brings down the TA, but it took a little bit longer than it should have.
Important kill there, indeed. One thing to mention right now, they did a lane swap. They put the Axe on the top lane against the Tidehunter. I just feel like it might be too late. Tidehunter already has level 4, and he had a fairly good time so far. He was not pressured by a Brute whatsoever, while Brute just rotated, I feel like, too late. They could have read this a bit earlier, you know, like you see the lanes coming up, you get a first blood on your Axe, and actually have like the best time against a Tidehunter, given the fact that he gets that first blood, right?
And this 1v1 matchup, Axe versus Tide, it can go either way. You know, Axe can get a couple of kills here and there, but I think you're right. With Eyesight Ice's level lead, FY now coming in with the Spike. Limp gonna get caught, does have magic stick charges. Seal Kid TPing in, but it's just a little bit too late as Limp gets taken down by the big old weapon that Eyesight Ice is throwing around.
Important counter kill there though on the Lion. Seal Kid TP actually gave him just the edge on getting that kill. It was one slow and one attack, and then the minions just hit him down, just because there was too many minions to deal with, and as a result it turns out into a one-on-one scenario there. Obviously Axe dying, it hurts. He has no regen on him. You can see like right now he has not a single regen item, and it just seems like it's too late of a transition, right? Tidehunter now transitions back towards the bottom lane as the Queen of Pain is going towards top lane, so they counter transition, right? They see, alright, Brute is bottom, we just sent out Tidehunter.
And this is exactly something you were mentioning in the draft. NiP right now are on the back foot. They're the ones who have to react time after time to what VG are doing. And okay, the Broodmother was sitting on, what, 4 or 5 last hits like a minute and a half ago. Has managed to basically triple or almost quadruple her last hit count. But the items that she progresses into, you know, she wants a Midas, she wants to head into maybe Necro, maybe the Dagon build. You're never quite sure where they want to go. What would you favor in this game? Against VG's lineup, Dagon to try and... actually coming back to the Super Avalanche toss and silenced. He will drop, and Refraction only keeps him alive a little bit longer. They turn back to Super, getting out of there somehow with FY and Fenrir both getting their stuns out. Those little boulders, and look at that. The two smaller golems showing their worth. 3 stuns out and that damage over time from the boulder toss.
And that range on the Hurl Boulder.
Hurl Boulder
is actually quite big. It's around 700. What range is it? Is it like, it looked like around 700 range around there, which is quite far.
Oh man, yeah. That's a hefty range.
Other than that, I think one thing to mention right now is that Broodmother in an offlane scenario, right, in a one-on-one, at least you can go to towards the forest, right? And you're not taking anything away from your team. Well, now with the transition, I feel like it just hurts them a lot more, because Axe can't just do that. Axe cannot just rotate, and it's gonna hurt NiP a lot. Just because I think Limp is not an experienced offlaner at all. He's not. As well as Broodmother on the safe lane, I just feel like Tidehunter just has the best time of his life. Like he's free farming. No one is pressuring him. He has level 6, and Jonas and Fun is struggling a lot. And it just shows, I feel like, you're in a draft scenario, you don't want to give up Broodmother towards Vici, just because how well they play around with that hero, but it seems a bit inexperienced, and that's another kill onto the Axe.
I was watching Fenrir come around with a smoke on Enchantress and expecting, okay, they'll go when the Enchantress gets here, but Seal Kid will be the target for him. The double stomps on the Centaur, locking him in place, and a few more right clicks out from Hal. Seal that up, follow up with the tier 1 tower. How did they kill the Axe? Just jump in with How's arsenal. I guess they used Sonic Wave and Scream, and he just had nothing to throw at them.
And you can see NiP had a fairly good start onto the mid lane with a Tiny Wiz, where a great play by Vici Gaming turned it around, where they got the kill onto the Tiny, so that hurt them quite some, but at the same time side lanes are struggling again. It's the lane where Era is not on that struggled a lot for them. And right now, there's no real answer. Jonas and Fun is just sitting bottom where Tidehunter is free farming. He doesn't care. Like, he knows the Broodmother is there, but you know that Tidehunter free farms against him. Brood can't contest any creeps. The way you want to play against Tidehunter usually is to nuke him out of the lane, right? You can't put your spiraling in short range off the Tidehunter just because one Anchor Smash almost kills him, right? You need 2 Anchor Smash and you're gonna kill the entire spiraling army. So I think what Jonas needs to focus on is actually aiming towards farming in the jungle with the spiderlings, which he's not doing. He's just like sitting around trying to go for the next wave and stopping that push that Tidehunter has. Tidehunter doesn't care. He's just gonna sit there, farm. He knows that he is in no pressure whatsoever. And I just feel like you can't just play reactive Dota. And for me, NiP is just playing this reactive Dota. They're just reacting to ganks that Vici is giving them. Vici is always ahead in terms of this movement.
Yeah, they are one step ahead, but I think one thing that I've definitely got going for them, they've got this Tiny Wisp. Era farming reasonably well. He's got Treads and Bracer, he's progressing into his Agnum Scepter and should have that in a decent time. And I think that is the reason why they're doing this. They're throwing bodies into VG just to give Era this little bit of space. They know that Tiny Wisp can turn the tides. They can get things done, and they can potentially win the game with those two heroes. Now mid lane Super, and here we go. Era looking to kill onto the TA. The refraction charge comes back up and stun on 2. FY with a big earth spike as Super does not manage to get out. Wisp doesn't get taken down. How? Sonic Wave across the mall. Tiny Wisp, no matter how hard they work, they still get taken down. Limp with a dunk. The Lion pays with his life as that awful projectile from Fenrir floating across the screen finds a double kill for himself.
And it's not looking good here for NiP. 3-2 scenario. I mean, it's not terrible, but at the same time, you get those kills on Queen of Pain and as well as Enchantress. Enchantress is actually quite rich to this point. He's opting towards PTs, I believe, and just given the fact who can deal physical damage in the mid or later portion of the game. Queen of Pain, decent. TA has a lot of physical impact, and the change in Enchantress, given the fact that you can't block the damage but with a BKB anymore, is going to be quite huge.
Yeah, this is a pretty standard build for Chinese Enchantress. Go power treads, earn, and you just tank yourself up that little bit. You do offer a lot in pushes with the earn charges if you do get them. And we don't usually see, Midas Rush or Aghanims or anything like that too early on. They may progress into that a little bit later, but it's quite often utility Enchantress, while, Ench with her farm now, okay, she's doing great, but you can definitely see the farm priority shifting to the Lion. They need the blink up on Lion, he needs another 1500 gold, and that's going to be something that VG will definitely be aiming for. While NiP, what are their goals? Limp Blink, the Broodmother, what? A Midas? She's got the recipe, as now they're chasing Ice Ice Ice. So they call onto him, they need everything, they need the kitchen sink, and they will actually dunk him down into the ground. Jonas, along with the entirety of his team, it took to kill that one Tidehunter.
And you can see how cocky Ice is.
Of course. Stun now, Hanskin, there's the nuke. Burst down, like you said, Lion and TA.
He was a bit overconfident there, but at the same time it shows how passive NiP is. Like, given the fact that you see a Tidehunter walking into your forest, knowing that you're 5 people almost together at one spot, and Ice can just do that. Like, he doesn't care, he just walks in casually and is like, oh, I'm gonna take your creeps as well. You might want to kill me if you really feel like it, which shows to me that NiP is tilting. At this point, they're not making great movements over the map. They haven't in the previous game either, but it just feels like middle lane.
Yeah, maybe now Super refraction charges allow him to get out, and there's no real chasing here. They don't have blink, they don't have anything like that to keep up. That's actually a point. Does Era think about skipping over Aghanims for now and going blink? We've seen it from Tinies who are behind in the past, just to get them some kills under their belt.
I mean, looking at the lineup of NiP here, you can work towards, like toss ganks, such as you toss the axe in, right? You could work around that, but they're not setting anything up. Like, I feel like in the way the lanes are developing right now, is they're super stagnant on the lanes. You have a Broodmother that has done nothing but sit bottom lane. Tidehunter can sit bottom lane, right? Like, his momentum is gonna come, either he gets pressured out of the lane, which hasn't happened. He has not been pressured whatsoever. He's gonna form his mech, he doesn't care. He's gonna form the blink dagger if they leave him to do that, right? He's not the person that needs to make something happen. He can just sit there and abuse the fact that he's free from mid lane.
That's why he's here every single time. Super okay, gets tossed back into the creep wave and will drop. FY, even with the earth spike not saving his teammate, How does make the TP rotation in, but he's taken tier 1 at top. He's been farming freely, and this is something that I was looking at while Ice 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 is running into the jungle. What are VG getting in exchange? They're getting a hell of a lot now. Ice Ice Ice, Ravage onto 3. The relocate did come in, but he still gets dunked down. There's no follow-up there, as, just as I was saying. FY had TP'd mid, as had How. There was no real way to react to what NiP were doing.
And this is very important actually for NiP though. The kill for the axe is almost securing him the blink dagger, so he can set up and play that aggressive game. They need to be the ones pressuring first. Given the fact that they have the Wisp, they can relocate, they can pretty much do the same mechanism, whereas Vici is going to be forced into more of a 5-on-5 scenario, right? You sit there with having the Tidehunter, who almost has the mech complete, so their 5-on-5 potential is just going to get better from there, right? You, at least with NiP being forced in top lane, How just gets a soul onto the Broodmother.
Not nice at all.
It can't happen. Like, these kind of things are just like, you need to play more on. If you play Brood, like mid-late game is not going to be yours. Not really. At least against the lineup that Vici is presenting, they have quite a huge chunk of magic as well as physical damage going further into the game.
She got 1,000 experience from that. She cleaned up Spiderlings and the kill. They're now sitting close to 3,000, finishes Orchid, sends it out, and that's going to be a pretty damn good aggressive option now for VG. 13 minutes into the game, 9-9, the kill score, it's even. But net worth, Queen of Pain is leaps and bounds ahead of everyone else. 7.3 thousand with Tiny sitting on 5k. The Broodmother, a great job to catch herself up, sitting on about 4.5. But then the spread of the others, the Axe, who's meant to be that
bottom
safe
lane might be actually an initiation coming very soon, just because Wisp has to relocate up again, and I can totally see Axe just being ready to jump call someone so they can follow up with a relocate.
Look at FY and Fenrir though, they found Seal Kid in the back, they smoke through the Raiden jungle and they'll Finger of Death. The poor old Skywrath. They are getting a trade though. NiP are looking for the tier 1 Saturn, going to try and blast them down, while How DP's towards mid to the tier 2. Clarity going through. 4 members of VG though are down towards this bottom lane. Reacting, I'm not sure whether they want to try and save this tier 1. It's something we mentioned in game number 1. They're very good and very sort of stoic about, okay, we take your tower, then we're going to come back and defend ours. And that's what they're doing right now. Blink call left, they weren't expecting this. As Super gets caught on his own ramp. No, the dunk misses. The mech comes in from Eyesight Size. They save him as How in the back lines now. Finds the IO and cleaning up Limp. Sure, he's silenced. Okay, he's slowed, but he's got a haste. He's going to chase you all down. Seal Kid does not have a lot of armor, does not have a lot of HP. The Mystic Flare through the refraction does nothing whatsoever as VG clean up 3.
Here, unfortunately, it was really close for the Axe to get that dunk off, right?
Yeah.
He was really close to it. He did not get it off, which kind of snowballed everything around, just because you don't get the movement speed, the attack speed that Axe offers you from that ultimate when you get the kill. But at the same time, I just feel like what keeps repeating is the fact that the only person that rotates for them now is an Axe.
Oh, here comes Avalanche Toss, Super. They want to change his PC, but right now he's looking to change the life of that Wisp as he sends him to his grave. Era, now this is what we were talking about. He's caught in a position where he doesn't have any backup, but gets close enough to the tier 2, so Limp, who was TPing in, looking for the counter initiation.
And there you could see the strength of that TA pickup. Once he had that level 4 refraction, he blocks the entire combination of Tiny. Whereas, like, any other hero would probably blow up.
Yeah.
It's around 1k damage that we would take, where obviously Super is playing great with the refraction. He sees the...
They don't have mana for Ravage. Eyesight Size doesn't have it. If he did, this could be a destructive fight for VG, but instead Super looking for the trade-off. Era chase down, one hit does take him down as Limp trying his hardest to get the call onto that TA. Where's How in the back lines, taking down Seal Kid, but Limp has found a trade-off. 2 for 2 in this little engagement, but How wants to clean up. The Wisp comes in and heals, and now actually called up. Can't get the Sonic Wave and taken out. Limp double dunk. Fenrir, the Enchantress. Where's your backup now, buddy? You've got no one to save you, and this might be a great fight for NiP. Hanskin, okay, stunned up with Fenrir launching out one projectile. He's surviving through it. Doesn't keep him alive. That was incredibly close. The question is, where's Brood? Brood is not a part of this fight. She's not getting any kills or experience. She's pushing top and buys herself a Dagon. So in the end, VG get 4. They lose 3. A little bit of map control goes the way of the Broodmother, and she is getting a lot of farm, but she's not fighting.
And it doesn't... I mean, looking into that mid-late game, right? You have this Broodmother. I mean, he obviously pushed your towers. He's getting something out of the aggression that the rest of the NiP squad is giving, right? But what are 2 towers looking into the late game when you go towards a Dagon build? A Dagon build usually is like an item pickup when you're dominant. You're just adding some damage towards whatever the rest of the team is offering you. Sure, you have an Axe who kind of gets good with a Dagon, right? Because you can lower the HP and then Axe can dunk earlier, right? At the same time, I just feel like you're just aiming towards split push here, and is that the right answer? I feel like, given the recent change that a Broodmother had in terms of orb pickups, that you now are able to pick up an orb effect, which potentially gives Broodmother more 5-on-5 potential. Just because you can, I don't know, you can aim towards maybe a Stygian on the hero, or, I mean, like a Desolator, or you can just like maybe Scotty Route is also something to consider, right? Or Lifesteal Route. I'm just thinking that you can maybe aim towards more 5-on-5 impact.
Fenrir, they'll find a kill. Again, the commitment there for heroes, but I'm with you, man. The Dagon build we've seen a lot in China, but yeah, 100% is when you're dominating. You know, when you go sort of 4-0, 5-0, you're cleaning up supports and your early game has been perfect, Dagon build, fine. Any hero they send to try and stop you in your lane, you know, they send one hero to deal with the Broodmother and push the lane back, you just go forward and try and kill them. And the same kind of can be said for the Orchid build. Necro, Midas, things like that we've seen quite often as well. I always think though about London Conspiracy, the way they run Broodmother, where they go for Midas into Necro, and then they go like BKB, AC, and Butterfly. They go from split pushing and annoying hero into then a hero that can actually fight. They can get into team fights, do damage, and make an impact.
I mean, definitely, it could be a Dagon 5 into potentially like a BKB and, you know, like having a fighting impact, but at the same time, you're running a losing game right now. So, Broodmother does not have a Dagon 5 in a great time. Like, a great time for a Dagon 5 Broodmother is going to be like 20-25 minutes. That means you have it really quick, and then it has a huge impact, right? Like, if you look at the HP, it's going to be like 800 HP on a line, stuff like that. A Dagon 5 can have a great impact.
Yeah.
But right now, he's sitting on a Dagon 1, and the team is not doing well. Like, sure, they can set up kills, but the team is not doing well. And
well, you've got Acronyms on the Tiny, so this maybe is a route back in. They've actually smoked up here. 3 heroes is, Wisp isn't.
This could be an interesting situation just because Vici just set up for the Roshan, and interesting to see Super aims towards the quick Desolator without getting a dagger or anything before it, which means Wisp is in danger. Wisp as well as Tiny. If you look at the armor that NiP heroes provide, it's 2 armor on a Wisp. It's 10 armor on an Axe right now. Of course, you have the Call on top of that. You have 8 armor on a Tiny. All of these heroes, 1 armor on a Skyrus, all of these heroes are going to drop into immense minus armor, which means anything can blow up here. Anything.
Yeah, and we've yet to see Ice with an aggressive Ravage. He's used
I think he just picked up his dagger. No,
yeah, he's picked up the Greaves actually.
Guardian Greaves. Interesting pickup here by Ice. I'm not entirely sure.
Great against Axe, you've got to say. Like this item. Okay, they've dropped down to sort of below the threshold. Oh look, I'm going to give them more healing.
I'm trying to think of, you know, you have that debuff mechanism. I'm not entirely sure on what it actually works. I have not tested it out that much. I know it can dispel, but does it dispel slows or does it actually dispel stuns, right? If it dispels stuns, it's going to be interesting. If it can interrupt the call, for example, you can break through the call and you will always get your ultimate off. If that's the case, it's a great item pickup. If it's not the case, I'm not entirely sure, just because Guardian Greaves costs so much gold. I feel like the item
is 1700 gold for the recipe, 1650.
Yeah,
it's a ridiculous amount of money.
It's extremely expensive.
Skyroth Mage, no! You're basically in your own base and dropping. 11 now blinks forward to call onto Fenrir, but Ice perfectly timed Ravage! The relocate comes in, but Ice with a plays. They try to bring in Hansken. Not quite enough damage as now FY. Stuns out Era. How finally joins the fight. Takes down that Wisp and Limp is silenced. Nuke down, the impetus down to the Desolator from Super. Finally bringing him to his death. Era left here alone, high and dry. Chased by 5 members of VG, and this is going to be tier 2 tower, maybe even pressure into tier 3, and I see your camera move, and it's over to the Broodmother. Again, someone who's pushing out lanes, but can't react to what's been done to them.
I mean, I feel a bit sorry for Jonas here, just because the game's not, like, it's just not running their way, right? Broodmother is just one of those heroes. It can snowball in both directions, and you can have, like, 0 impact. He obviously tries to push out all lanes, right? Pressure towers, try to do the best he can, but with a Dagon build and not having boots, for him having impact in these 5-on-5s is almost impossible, right? One thing to mention, I guess, is the fact that how I was focusing onto blowing up the Wisp.
Yeah.
I was trying to mention, there's, you know, like, you have 3 heroes that have huge impact in terms of fast damage, right? You have the TA that can jump a Wisp, you have a Lion that can jump a Wisp, and you have a Queen of Pain that can jump a Wisp. All these heroes, and which they did in the last fight, Queen just looked for that target in mid lane.
Yeah, Mystic Flare taking a long time to bring him down, heals up, stick charges, and Kraken Shell. It lasts a little bit longer, but still gets taken out. This is again another 5-man commitment from NiP to bring down one lonely hero. How? Farming the jungle, being pinged out here by that pretty nice aggressive ward from NiP. They might look to contest, get into that jungle, but take a look in their own. Fenrir is farming Radiant side, Ancients being taken by Super the TA. Everywhere you look, VG are making the most of that situation. Ice just sort of throws himself down a lane, forces the convergence of all of NiP's heroes into one area, so VG know for sure. How is safe, Super is safe, they're getting farm across these heroes, and there's nothing that Tidehunter desperately needs, because you take a look at him now and he's got Glimmer Cape. He's got that initiation tool.
The items of Tidehunter really surprise me. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure, like, what his progression is. I feel like, to me, Dagger just feels like the best option on a Tidehunter. You always get the jump, you have a quad follow-up, you have a line follow-up, you have a TA follow-up all can react really well onto the tight under jump. What he's doing, he's just getting very beefy. Like, that's pretty much it. I just feel like Guardian Greaves does not give you too much tank ability, where you could aim towards getting a bit more HP, like a Halberd, or like you get a bit of evasion. You maybe just work on the cloak, but he's initiating. He's just being nice.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. He is just being ice. The pings come out again. They've spotted someone out with that observer ward, but relocating into that spot, Super's going to walk himself away. Okay, he doesn't have a blink or a Yasha. His movement speed is limited to just his phase boots and base, but I don't think that there's any position that Tiny Wisp could actually relocate to.
I guess one thing we haven't talked too much about is just item progression. If you look at the side of Vici here, going from the line, he has his core items. He has Golem Cape as well as Dagger as well as Tranquil Boost, right? He's pretty much set. He can aim towards an Aghanims potentially. He can aim towards a Force Staff, Eos, whatnot. He can follow up items, but he's set pretty much having that Blink Dagger, right? Looking at the TA, right now he has the BKB finish as well as the Desolator. It just seems to me like he's very strong in a team fight. He doesn't have to jump yet. He does not have a Blink Dagger to just jump a target, right? What I was trying to mention earlier in terms of the burst potential that he is more like a reactive hero. He has that BKB, he's not going to die getting jumped, right? Then you go further towards Queen of Pain, you have Aghanims as well as an Orchid's finish.
Look at that gold as well.
He has so much gold. It's just so hard for them. Top lane initiation onto TA.
Oh, they found her. At last. She didn't have a way out. She had Aegis Immortal though. That must have just expired. That expired at, what, 10 seconds ago? Something like that. So NiP timing that well, realizing, hang on a second, she doesn't have that get out jail free card right now. VG looking for the tier 3 towards middle lane as well. Clears up a creep wave. Fenrir, what did you actually build into? Aghanims is done. Aghanims finished. That was the final hero I guess you were going to come to. And
yeah. Aghanims finished on Enchantress. So given the fact that, I feel like Enchantress is a bit underrated to me at this point, just because the change on Aghanims onto Enchantress is quite huge to me. BKB usually stopped Enchantress in terms of damage output as soon as the fight starts, right? Like, you have your impetuses, but then BKB gets triggered and you deal suddenly, like, from dealing probably the most damage in a team fight to dealing the least damage, because you don't have any damage impact, just pretty much your right clicks, right? Which is almost nothing. So having that change where it goes through BKB, no one is pretty much safe on the side of NiP, and it's for sure a target that NiP has to focus. Enchantress is going to deal a lot of damage. It could be a follow-up Mask of Madness here that Enchantress goes for, but obviously you don't have to. You can also just aim towards, like, let's say,
Scythe of Vice,
a Curious, or even the new item, the Moonshard. It could be something, just if you want to aim towards just getting a lot of attack speed, right? Moonshards could be something that's, in terms of attack speed, just given attack speed is more attack speed than a Mask of Madness gives you. Of course, it's a lot of it's a lot of gold as well, right? Yeah,
pretty high. But Fenrir just trying to battle it out here with Jonas, who's taking control of the jungle, but they've got a gem. Jonas now the Broodmother caught out. FY as well as Hal. We'll clean up this little spider. Oh, he does take down the lion just before they kill her though. Gem not lost, gets transferred back over to the Enchantress. As Tiny and Wisp still clearing through their jungle, looking for every little inch they can.
Jonas actually did not get the kill before, which means that Lion actually got the experience. So that's quite important for the Lion, just because, like, he can progress towards that level 16, as well as that you deny quite essential experience for Broodmother. Broodmother being level 16 he's quite high in levels in comparison. I'm not sure who's the highest.
Queen of Pain is level 19. Act, Tiny and Brood, as well as TA and Tide are all 16.
So yeah, it was quite a good kill for them, given that Broodmother, with having that little impact, you give so much experience away. What just...
Oh, they TP top. I was wondering, where is this relocate going? And they're not taking the Tiny with them, but Axe as well as the Skywrath and Wisp find a kill on Ice, and now VG, they're giving a few kills away here and there without too much in return. Maybe if they can find Era here, I don't think it's highly likely. Is there going to be any reaction? No, NiP not bringing anyone down here. How and Fenrir, the two of them, taking down the big rock man, and that's BKB done for Era, but does that mean there's no buyback available?
No buyback available indeed, and they have their bottom lane pretty much pushed out, which means right now you're missing pretty much your two cores for that 5-on-5, right? You don't have the Tiny as well as the Wisp. Wisp obviously is going to struggle. Against these heroes, Wisp is, you need to play very, very patient in terms of how you position yourself in the team fight, because you can just save your target. I don't think you can be actually aggressive and stay next to Tiny at the same point, at the same time. Just because initiation by Axe.
Oh, can they get him below the threshold? How dropping low? Pops BKB, but that doesn't stop you from death knocking at your door. Limp now out of mana. Super with the splash. Jonas, there's no gem here. Sentries dropped as... Who has the gem? FY does, but he's too far back. They've lost their co-op, and now this might quell the push from VG. Kind of interesting, though. You know, the aggressive play from Wisp TPing top to help the Axe, and then basically leaving Tiny high and dry once again.
A great heads-up play there by NiP. Vici was completely caught off guard. They did not expect the Dagon combination with that Axe jump, right? They were managing to get pick up that Queen of Pain, and this could have resulted into a tower, if not potential Rax push, right? Great defense. Not expected at all by Vici, and good answer to, despite being 2 heroes down, getting a kill out of a situation that was not great in the first place for you.
Yeah, you're sort of thinking as VG, oh look, they're not buying back, we're 1 man ahead, 4 versus 3, what could they possibly do? But Limp going for the ballsy play, jumping in with the call, and you're right, the combo, Dagon, Culling Blade, taking down the Queen of Pain. Now Era back in the land of the leaving. He's got his Hyperstone, had that before the BKB, Aghanim's allowing him to clear up a couple of these ancient camps. What do you think Limp goes for next? Because even though he had an incredibly rough early game, his net worth right now is up there. You know, he's 3rd highest. He's actually ahead of Tiny and the Broodmother with a BKB Vanguard, a Blink, and 3.3 thousand gold. I
mean, one scenario would be you go towards that Shivas plus Refresher route. That's one thing you can do, I think. You get a double disable with a call. Shivas gives you the armor. Initiation onto the Tiny by the Queen of Pain.
How's all alone here? He does have 2 people converging on his location, but Limp's already there. There's Skywrath Mage, ulti and toss. How? Not popping his BKB in time. Ice. A cheeky little bugger getting in there with the Glimmer Cape, but no Ravage because there's no big damage output. Super is still middle lane. FY being chased down now as Era. Limp looking for the blink, looking for the call. Axe not going to find it just yet onto Ice. So they're hunting further north. But again, they back themselves up. A little bit scared of the movement in from Super. TA hasted up. You don't really want to deal with that. She's just going to be she'll basically just run past your Axe and your Tiny, look for the supports, and try and clean up that way from back to front.
And they just scouted out Roshan. Roshan just spawned.
And a DD on the TA.
But it looks like they're still waiting it out.
Well, they have the Tidehunter blink forward with the Glimmer Cape, but again, no vision with them just now. Over in the jungle, Era, what are you going to do here? You've got BKB, you look to try and fight up against Fenrir, but the movement in from VG is coming. The slow with the charm. Relocate, going to try and save Era. Does Ice? The answer is no before I ask the question. Can't stop the Relocate out, but they will get a kill on this Wisp. There's going to be no one to tether to, and he will forfeit his life. A Super with a DD rune. 1 hit kill. Oh, Super.
He missed that initiating melt damage, but despite the fact they're still going to aim towards getting that Roshan. It's going to be a very quick Roshan, potentially going towards the T as well right now. I guess he has the bottle slot available right now that he could drop, or they pull out. One of the two. He's still not stacked enough to not grab that Aegis, and it looks like it's going to head towards that TA. I feel like Vici is not in danger whatsoever looking towards that late game, just because Enge progresses so well in terms of items as well as damage.
How just used his BKB in middle lane? Well, against nobody that I saw?
It happens. Well, sometimes it happens.
I guess it's not a big deal, you know, it's not the 10-second BKB, it's getting low. It's now down to 8, but yeah, I guess it's not a big deal. 45 seconds without it though, they can't really look to play aggressively into a team fight. They can, though, have a look for these pickoffs. Jonas slowed down by the Ducks, trying to TP out. They have a stun from FY, catching out the Broodmother. That's a pretty quick, easy cleanup there as they look to push down this bottom lane. Tier 3 has taken half damage on this.
How many smokes are left on the side of NiP here? None in the shop. As well as, is there any smoke available? Top lane? NiP is opting towards pushing on the top lane.
Who's over on the side? Ice is ready with Blink Ravage. But how does he go about this? Because Hansken is waiting in the back line, just ready to take Era back, will do so. Limp now will have to be the target, the last man up here. Do they get a quick easy kill though, or is he going to draw this out for as long as he can? BKB and TP, and there's no way. They cannot catch him.
Great play there by NiP, and they just stopped the bottom push that was initiated on by Vici Gaming. I just feel like, going back to my earlier point with the item progression on Tidehunter, as cocky as he played, right? He had all the time in the world to farm all his items, and to me still, the way superior item build-up is just going into a dagger into refresher.
Yeah.
Right? Dagger refresher or dagger Shiva's refresher, whatever you want. You can still build the mech into it. You know, like you can aim towards the early pushes, but I just feel like if you look at the items and the gold on how much he has spent, right? I just feel like it doesn't have that big of an impact. Whether or not he had a blink and boots right now, or he has guardian greaves and and the glimmer cape as well as the dagger, I just feel like the impact is not as big. The glimmer cape obviously makes him more tanky. All these items make him more tanky, but my point earlier with the guardian greaves, is it really that, you know, like, do you get really that much from that item? Top lane.
We're going to find How here for now. He's not moving as he gets healed up by Ice Ice, turns back around. Now the Rev comes out, but Era pops the BKB. Hunskin nuked into oblivion, tossed onto How, where he does actually die, but it finds a rebuttal. He just popped. How now looking to try and turn things back onto Era. Dagon out onto FY, but he's got the Glimmer Cape to escape, and Tiny, where does he run? Where does he hide? Because How is turning back onto the support. Seal Kid chased down. They will find that kill. Looks like Tiny did kill the Lion off in the end at the back. And NiP, they're not giving up without a fight. Where's the TA? Super is trying to come in and clean up. There's no real escape. The Tiny, you know, he's going to run. But How is called. He's caught. Super is now walking in here with the Enchantress. Can they clean up? Can they find the exit kills though? Because Limp as BKB doesn't have mana to TP just yet. He's going to be looking to hide himself in some little nook or cranny and make his way out. Blinks over, and Super, again, we come back to the fact he's got no mobility items. He's got no catch or chase, and that's going to be a Limp escaping, and that's a great fight for NiP.
Definitely. I just feel like it shows how, you know, how comfortable Vici is in terms of how they position. I feel like they kind of are like maybe even going too far. They're just playing very cocky at this point. They're not grouping up well enough. They're not taking these 5-on-5s, and if they continue playing like this, it actually can completely turn around. They had the entire early mid game going Vici's way, and as we can see right now, like you open up the net worth chart, we can see that slowly but surely potentially turning it around, right? Like, you need to watch out for Tiny. Like, the thing is, Tiny at this point, he can go Curious, right? As well as he can go Moonshard and sell the Moonshard. You know, like, there's more gold room right now having that Moonshard change for him. He gets a plus 60 attack speed if he wanted to use it, right? On use. So, and the timing of being stuck now is a bit delayed in terms of what, like, net worth, what you have in terms of options, right? And you just, I feel like you just have to watch out. Like, the NiP draft is not as, you know, like, looking into the late game, I was saying Vici's draft is superior to me.
But NiP aren't pushovers by any means.
No, not at all. And NiP definitely, if you play this sloppy at this point, you're gonna get punished. And it is heading that way. You still obviously have a Broodmother whose fight participants is fairly low. He now has 2,700 gold. He could be aiming towards either maybe an E-Blade, who knows, or just getting a BKB, right? So you maybe, like, you have a bit more impact in a team fight where you can aim towards using a Dagon potentially twice, and, you know, like, you still need a lot of room to follow up with another item that potentially brings you physical damage. But yes, you're playing a 4v5 game at this stage. Having a Dagon 5 is not going to be great for your 5-on-5. It's good for an axe in terms of just dunking a person, but at the same time, you have to watch out. You can't play as sloppy. You can't continue playing as sloppy if you're in VG's shoes here.
I'm just still waiting to see VG actually combine their team composition together. Because Tidehunter with these Ravages, okay, now this sounds lit. There's the Ravage before he pops his BKB and they kill off the axe. That's one hero though. Actually, Relocate comes in. Era and Hunskin both looking for the turnaround of the Super Call. Great from Limp, catches out the TA, and one dunk, he's down. FY is caught in the crossfire, and VG too big for their boots as they overextend a tiny bit, looking for that one kill. The buyback, obviously, from the axe does allow NiP to do this.
And one thing I like to mention, this was the first standard initiation by Vici Gaming with the Tidehunter. The first time you jump, you ravage with a dagger, you get the kill. It was the first time in this entire game. He just played very sloppy, and How just jumped into the Tiny.
He pops his BKB, the Sonic Wave across them, but the damage output from Era is ridiculous. How blinks out? Do they have the chase? Do they have the chase? The orbs, they're flying out, they're looking for the hits, but How hides himself in the trees. The TP out from Jonas. Now into the little webs he's made himself. Do they have a jam across anyone? Fenrir does not. It must be the Lion that dropped his over near the base. But yeah, I agree. That's what I was just about to make the point before they did actually get into that little locking of heads. That Ice has been either ravaging defensively against the relocates onto him. He has been looking for the ravages with his Glimmer Cape, but he's never had How and Super together with him. He's had one or the other. But there's never been that one big burst of damage, we're going to wipe you right here, right now, because they've always been scared. If they go into an engagement like this...
And the interesting part, right, with that, is suddenly how confident they felt, especially Ice just farming wherever he wants to. He doesn't really care, he just walks around, you know, like, he's just like, I'm farming, just react to me. If you kill me, I don't care, because we're like having the edge anyway. You usually always, like, you want to kind of have a hero that pushes to just that, right? So you don't get pressured too much. So you shouldn't be scared of moving out on the map. So having one hero, just like Ice does with the Titan in this game, is who kind of pushes you to the edge of showing where heroes are, right? It kind of makes you feel like, is Tidehunter really alone, and do we take that pressure? It could be that Tidehunter is maybe backed up, but obviously Titan in this game, he was never backed up. He just tries to push the opponent to move towards you and gank you, right? It's important that that happens by someone, and I think Ice does an exceptional job with that. But at the same time, you can see with the last Ravage use, to me it shows that suddenly they're getting into a more like scared position. They're like,
we've got to finish. We've got to.
They knowingly, you know, like having that Ravage use, and that's how you should use Ravage. Ravage is up, you want to kill someone. You want to use that to your advantage. You either take it 5-on-5, you take that position to push in, and right now they're grouping up toward bottom lane, Ravage is up again, and they can potentially, you know, like push high ground.
Just going to be switching between top and bot as Limp is hit by Super. Top lane, let's take a look at this. Era, Ice in the midst. The Glimmer Cape to get him into a better position. BKB from Era means that he can't get ravaged, and he won't be stunned out in this through that duration. Hansken and Jonas. Whoa, Super down at bot lane, back up the top though. Ice has jumped, they'll find the Brood, 1-for-1. But how did the TA die? Taking down the tier 3, they get a trade-off there, but up at top, Catspot and Broodling still hammering away at those racks.
It's a trade, and it's not a worthy trade just because Ice uses Ravage this. So now it's down for 130 seconds, whereas you get a kill on the TA. Important, Axe gets that kill on the TA. He has to sheave his guard. I'm not entirely sure how he's going to continue now. He can, like I mentioned, he could go for the refresher. To me, I would not be surprised going for the refresher just because your BKB is at 5 seconds anyway. You have the mana pool to sustain that refresh. And I believe that's going to be the follow-up item, just because it offers you another lockdown, right? And there was a slight nerf on Refresher, if I assume. I'm not entirely sure if it was just the intelligence.
Double Perseverance now instead of the Perseverance and Oblivion Staff, so yeah, it would be a reduction in intelligence, but you get the mana regen increased because of the double Perseverance, I believe.
Double Perseverance. It's funny to me because I actually haven't looked at that change. Now that I see it, it's like...
It's an odd one.
It reminds me of very old Dota days where I just used to go Perseverance and assume it's really good for me because I get regeneration rate.
Yes.
I can stay on my lane and I can farm.
Regardless of who you were. That was my old techies build when I was playing Dota 1. Just buy like 6 Perseverances and forget everything else. Like, yeah, I'm going to buy 6 Void Stones and... what can I make Void Stones into? Oh look, there's this shiny item, and I don't have to go anywhere except the secret shop and mine up the river.
How in terms of item progression he's sitting at 2k gold and pretty much being maxed out right now.
Oh, how?
Yeah, he's about to finish that Daedalus. He probably saves a buyback. They just see the Roshan spawn, so they will most likely assume to go for that. They're smoking up towards bottom lane though. I believe they might aim towards a pickup and then it resulting in towards a push. NiP should know that Roshan is up, or could be potentially up. Either they just don't care and just, you know, like, think that they should rather have high ground, right? Instead of taking a fight in the middle of the map. Whereas Tidehunter with his ultimate obviously is superior.
Yeah,
as well as the Queen of Pain wave.
Yeah, you were mentioning Ice was the one in the first 25 minutes or so forcing NiP around the map. You know, he was basically drawing them in. Now it's NiP doing the same back to VG. With the Titan Wisp, they're going up this top lane over.
They're giving up a Rex right now, though, on the bottom lane.
You're right. Super with the Desolator and How with the damage output. FY is going aggressive here against the Hex on the left. They found the axe. He doesn't have buyback. He's already used it and will get taken low. Ice with the Ravage. Not going to catch Era as the BKB is up, but that's your initiator gone. 110 seconds without the axe is Super. The minus armor, the damage output, and Fenrir with a long range input. There's Era. Does he actually die here? He's low HP, but the Wisp keeps him alive in the fountain. Racks have fallen though. That's the big deal. And Broodmother hasn't found an opening on top lane.
And that just to me looks it just feels like a very, very sloppy play because they've seen them walking in towards that bottom lane.
I was looking up top at the spiderlings and thinking maybe there's something, but Jonas gets dropped. How? Does get tossed up into the air by Era, but super chasing Impetus and Deso hit, finally killing off that Wisp, and now 4 heroes dead for NiP. There's no way back. Era does have a buyback. The Broodmother follows suit, or maybe Era follows suit. Yep, there we go. Double buyback, but no supports, no overcharge, and no tether. With VG, 3 heroes alive, they're going to double rax them, and maybe even more.
I'm not entirely sure what just happened, just because I feel like they just stabilized in the draft. They just stabilized in this game. They made sure it was actually looking quite promising for NiP here. They were coming back 10k in gold, as well as having potentially, you know, like with the open raxes on top, they were looking very stable. I just felt like it could be an entire turnaround, but then they see Vici Gaming pushing in towards bottom lane. They are showing on the map where they're pushing. They show up bottom. They just hit the rax. They have to glyph it before any hero was even on the bottom lane. And it was just, to me, it looked like Wisp Tiny wanted to TP in, but at the same time no one else was ready to def that bottom lane. And it just decided that almost the entire game, they just took two sides of a misplay, or rather a miscommunication that is one of those, you know, like you can avoid. It was not anything like really crucial. It was just that no one was ready for a push that was showing obviously on towards that bottom lane.
And then you've got to kind of wonder, the Axe was getting himself in a position to defend, maybe expecting the Tiny Wisp to get there a little bit earlier, but FY with the Glimmer Cape, he basically walked straight up to the Axe, Hex, stun, and Limp was caught on half HP, obliterated by the magical nuke down to BG, and that just allowed Isosice to finally get that big ravage he always wanted. Era was the only hero not caught out due to the Black Key bar of his own, as there's Cheese and Aegis on the floor, waiting for someone to take it.
I actually haven't looked at the damage recap. I was very interested in Enchant's damage, because I felt like Ench, that fight, the most damage of all heroes. He was just standing back and hitting. Impetus, 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 impetus. And all Tiny could do was run away out of the fight. The damage output that Enchantress brings to the fight is, to me, still very superior. I feel like the hero is underrated, and if you get to that later portion of the game, the output that you can get from just that one hero seems quite hard, like crucial in terms of it's just a position for all fights, right?
What can Era do here with a DD though? Tiny DD hitting for 734 damage with the cleave, has a crit, but VG do not want to commit to a team fight. Do they know? I don't think they saw the DD being picked up, so maybe this observer up in the cliff spot spotted him as he moved into this area here. I think NiP is just expecting a buyback, but obviously we can see that Titan does not have a buyback right now on him, but going towards high ground, if the Tidehunter could potentially buyback, right, it would result into potential kills on the side of NiP, and if Tiny dies, he does not have a buyback, as well as Broodmother. I think, it's Broodmother does not have buyback, so if that happens, the game is over. They know it's over, so it's a safe choice to move back and not force their buyback, because if they get caught and Tiny dies, it's a lost game for sure at that point. Double Shivas on VG, and Enchantress with one and tied with the other, and she's gone for Hex after the Aghanim Scepter. So she's got lots of damage output with a little added disable, and looking at Hal. AC into Daedalus. You were asking what does he go for next, because he's pretty much 6-slotted right now, and I guess the only thing is to trade out treads for boots of travel. Unless you want to sell your Orchid or your Aghanims for something bigger, more right-click physical damage maybe?
I mean, he can sell the PTs for sure. Like you mentioned, he can also still potentially sell the Aghanims and, you know, go for even more physical damage. He could pick up a Scotty or something like that.
Ice, he's found Wisp and Tiny. Huntscan dead. Fenrir finds the Impetus and Era. Can they slow him down enough? They catch him with the end of the Shivas. Limp does link in with the Mystic Burn to Isis. Going to bring him low and potentially just take him out with one more swipe of Era's big old branch. And Limp now, though, in a pretty rough spot. He can BKB and can TP. The damage output shouldn't be enough here to finish him off. Oh, man in the back, though. How's found Era? He's got no TP, and that's it. 120 seconds without your Tiny. How, you know, fair enough, uses BKB. He just wanted that kill.
Important kill there by Vici Gaming to finish this game. I do assume they will just push down middle and potentially end the game at this point, knowing that Tiny does not have a buyback and he's dead for 100 seconds. We still, I think, no, he does not have the Aegis anymore?
Lion had it.
Oh, Lion had it.
Yeah,
right.
they killed it, and it was Lion Enchantress literally wandering around in the pit saying, "No, you take it, I'll take it." You take it. So Enchantress, was it Queen of... Who took the cheese? What?
It's the Tidehunter, but
Okay,
he
they gave
did
it
not
to Tom.
manage to trigger it before dying.
Okay. Well, buyback availability right now. Axe does have buyback back up. So he's managed to run through that timer as the mid-racks are taken out by Super. It's going to be rough. NiP, their defense right now, it's going to come down to an incredible cool Mystic Flare Broodmother with the E-Blade Dagon. You know, you try and catch out Hal, possibly. But Super is going to be difficult. They do blink core to him, and that's going to be one of the most difficult targets. He does drop those. Limp taken out of the fight. Hal blinks forward to the BKB, can play as aggressively as he likes. He knows there's nothing left. He knows that Limp cannot get back in here. Now Blink is off cooldown, jumps forward into the creep wave. Super once again found out, but it's all too late. Damage output not coming for NiP. 4 are dead. Skyrath last man standing, and your throne is crumbling. GG well played is called. VG take this series 2-0. NiP though put up a pretty damn good fight in game number 2.
Definitely. I mean, I guess one thing you can say, the start of the game was still around the same, right? Like, you still had a winning Vici Gaming here. On all lanes, pretty much, they were superior.